Welcome again to Garden Wise Adventures, and I am excited and disappointed. If you can see behind me, we have my jujube tree that looks a little bit different than it did in the last video I showed of it. And we had a storm come in. I think it was last night or the night before. Heavy winds, maybe you all experienced that, and it took the leaves and probably 90% of the jujubes out of the tree. Not all of them were completely ripe. So I didn't get to go show you my favorite thing, was just to shake the jujube tree and have them all fall out when they're completely ripe. But what we're going to do is we're going to harvest everything that has fallen on the ground. They don't go bad while sitting on the ground usually. And we are going to show you how I process my jujubes and my favorite way of keeping them. And that's called candying. So right now, let's get down and kind of show you what the jujubes look like. And I think there are a few left up in the tree, so I'm going to show you how I shake the tree to bring down the rest of them. Just so you can see what they look like on the tree. This jujube right here is almost completely ripe. It's colored up, it's going to be sweet, it's going to be crunchy. These jujubes right here will still taste pretty good and they're going to candy just fine, but they're not completely ripe. I have a ton of them in various stages of ripeness on the ground. We're going to get those all picked up. It's going to take me a bit. We're going to shake the rest of them out of the tree. I don't know if you can see that big cluster up there. There's a big cluster. But let's get harvesting. Now if you look at this jujube, it's got a little bit of wrinkling going on. It's kind of soft. That doesn't mean it's bad. Jujubes will actually naturally dry on the tree. So this one will work really well, still tastes good for the candying process. This one, on the other hand, has a really gushy spot, and I tend to get rid of those. They seem to have more rotten areas than just dried out, so I am going to get rid of this one. Okay, I think we finally finished harvesting all of the jujubes. I don't see any on the ground anymore. It took probably about 2 hours because I really like to comb through everything and separate it all out. There was a lot of them. So let's show you the bags that I got. Okay, so here's what I've got. Unfortunately, it was about a wash with the good ones and the bad ones. I usually get about 5 bags of really good ones. This year I only got 3 1/4. And I had 3 full bags of bad ones. So I'm gonna go toss the bad ones and then we'll go inside and show you what we do to candy our jujubes. So we're back inside and ready to start processing our jujubes. It's gonna be a couple of day process and I'll take you along with me. But the book that I am getting this recipe out of is from the CRFG Favorite Fruit Recipes. Now, CRFG is the California Rare Fruit Growers. I was a member of that group for many years in California. I loved it. It was before the days of Facebook and computers and all of that. Well, not before computers, but before the online groups. So we would meet once a month or so. I can't remember exactly how often we met, but we would meet as a group and taste test recipes, tour each other's gardens, see what each other has been growing. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, they came up with a member-created recipe book, and this is where I got the recipe from. So the recipe, I don't know if you can see it, I'll take a picture of it, but it's the Candied Jujube recipe. And it is pretty much about, I don't follow it exactly, because I never follow any recipe exactly, but it's pretty much equal parts water and sugar. There's a little more sugar than water, and then a little bit of corn syrup. Now the corn syrup is necessary. I've tried it with and without corn syrup. Without corn syrup, the texture is not as really nice. The corn syrup makes the dried jujubes a little softer. Anyway, it improves the texture of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to wash the jujubes. The recipe calls for candying whole jujubes. I have tried it in the past, but as we start cutting up the jujubes, I'm going to show you the seed that you have to deal with. And when the jujubes are dried and candied, it's much easier to deal with them if they've already been chopped up. It's a little bit of work ahead of time, but it's a lot easier to deal with. So let's start washing our jujubes. Well, that took a while, and this is the amount that one bag of jujubes filled. So that's a lot of jujubes. So to process these, about a little more than double the sugar than water. So let's start. We'll start with the sugar. And I'm not exactly following the recipe because we have a lot more jujubes, so I'm just going to fill with water and sugar until I feel like it's full enough. Now we're going to stir it all up. That was, and it's huge amounts. That was 20 cups of water, and it was 22 cups of sugar, and it was 5 tablespoons of corn syrup. So we're going to put this on the stove. It's going to take a while for it to boil, but we're going to let it boil. We let it boil for half an hour, and then we let it sit and cool overnight. Then we're going to boil it for another 30 minutes tomorrow, and then we're going to dry it on my dehydrator. Now we have it on the stove. I turned it up to high until it warms up a little bit, and then I'll turn it down and let it boil for a half an hour. Well, the 30 minutes is up, and as you can see, I don't know if you could tell, but the jujubes have changed color a little bit. I'm going to let this cool down, put the lid on it, and stick it outside for the night. It's in the 30s, so it'll be plenty cold out there. Then tomorrow morning, we'll start again. Well, we're back, and it's Sunday, and I just finished the last 30-minute boil for the jujubes. Let's see how they turned out. So here we are with the final product. They're very, very soft and gushy. The skins, they're a little more tender now. Last night they were harder. The color wasn't as translucent. Now we're ready to start drying them. Since there are so many of them, I've got to use both my dryers. This is my new dryer. It's a Nesco. Let's see if I can get. It's a Nesco. I've really liked this. We've lightly greased the trays so that it doesn't stick, because there's so much sugar in these that they do tend to stick. This dryer is my really old dryer. It's just got a heat coil at the bottom, and it takes longer for it to work, but it works beautifully. This one, the heat comes from the top down and is pushed down with a fan, so it goes a lot faster. Now I've done these enough in the past that I know now I need to drain them really well before I put them in the dryers, because it makes a big sticky mess at the bottom if I don't drain them. So I'm going to put them into my strainer, let them drain a little bit, and then stick them on the dryer trays. Well, that made a lot of jujubes. I have 2 dryers full, plus I have my parchment paper lined cookie sheets. I turned the oven down to just where it turns on so it's warm. I preheated the oven. I'll stick those in there. These should take about 24 hours. The rest of them, you know, the faster dryer is, my newer dryer is probably going to take me 3, maybe 4 days. And this old dryer will probably take up, 5, 6 days to finish drying. But as soon as they're finished, I will show you what they look like. Well, I came home from work today to a nice surprise. All the jujubes are finished. Now, obviously the ones in the oven finished first. And I have those all packaged up. I just keep them in the plastic freezer bags and put them in my cold storage. But look, they are gorgeous. Even the dryer that I thought would be slower finished a lot quicker than I thought. They're finished all the way down. I'm just going to put them in my plastic freezer bags. Let's look at the other ones. Look the same. And they have a rich caramely flavor when they're dry like this. Like I said, I oiled the trays first, otherwise it's almost impossible to get them off, but it looks like they're going to come off pretty easily this time. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to be a lot of jujubes. I'll show you the number of bags when I'm done. And then I will put my whole jujubes in the dryers. I think I'm just going to do them with the seeds in them. I'm not going to cut them up. I don't have that kind of energy right now. So yeah, I'll just do the whole jujubes, and then the recipes that I'll use, we'll just be able to cook them down and then just strain the seeds out of them. Well, there we go. We have 7 bags of candied jujubes and 2 more dryers full of regular jujubes getting dried. What we're going to move on to now is the syrup. Let me show you what the leftover syrup looks like. It's a beautiful amber color. It has some debris in there, or jujubes or whatever. So I'm going to put them through my strainer and can it. Well, I'm finished with the canning. We've got 6 beautiful quarts of gorgeous amber colored syrup that I'm really excited about. As I said, I use it on pancakes. I use it all sorts of places. I love it. Sometimes I'll mix it in with my oatmeal. I decided with the rest of the jujubes, we have so many candied jujubes, even though I use a ton of them, I also put those in oatmeal. I can do trail mix with them every day. Homegrown, home-dried raisins, jujubes, and almonds are like my favorite to take to work and stuff like that. So I'll use all of those, but I think that with the rest of them, I'm going to find a ton of really interesting recipes to use them in. There's a jujube tea with Asian pear, cinnamon, ginger, and lemon that sounds really, really good, that you start with the dried jujubes. There's a jujube jam that I can make in the winter when I have more energy and more desire to do canning. There are a lot of other recipes on the internet that I would like to try too, so I'm going to try them. If you've ever used jujubes in recipes, let me know. I would love to know different ways of using them. And until we have another video, go have a wonderful garden adventure.